Hi everyone, welcome to day 5 in our Halloween Book Nook series, and I've zoomed all the way out today, which is why I'm not on camera, so we can get everything in shot when we're constructing the Book Nook. The reason I've got this here is I keep forgetting to mention, if you do have the Fire Surround SVG file which came with the overmantel mirror, this will also fit on this chimney breast. As you know, or if you don't know, we make everything to kind of fit in with each other. So this is from originally the Witch's Cottage, but it will fit on there. It comes with its own hearth, and you can see it's not an inset hearth. So the chimney breast comes with the inset hearth, the Fire Surround doesn't. You can mix and match whichever you want to. I probably am going to put this on here because I think kind of suits it. It looks a little bit formal and that suits this one. So I'll put a link to that SVG file in the description below. Just look at the little arrow and press that on the bottom of the YouTube video. So that's why that's there. So when we're constructing this now, you can build this whichever way you like. We've got the base and we know the chimney breast will fit there because the hearth is already cut out of the flooring. That made that easier to fit. Whichever way you want to do this is up to you. You could glue this back wall onto the base and then put the side walls on each side and then put your window wall in. Or you could put the side onto the base first, remembering to leave your gap in the same spot, which is where the window wall is going, and you could do that first and then the back wall. That's entirely up to you. If you're doing the other way round, so if you imagine we're looking in through the front now into the room, and you're going to have your wall there, your window wall there, sorry, looking through, and then having your graveyard scene and your silhouette trees behind you, you would do it the same way. You'd probably want to put your side wall on and then your window wall to give it some kind of strength on each plane. So if you're doing it that way around, I'd do the side wall, then this window wall, and then I'd do the other side wall. But for me, because I'm going to have my chimney breast at the back on the back wall, that's the one I'm going to do first. I've got my gluing jig here with the metal sheet. I've got my stainless steel bench blocks, and I've got my magnets as well. And they are handy because they kind of help keep everything together. And if there is anything that warps, you can just see that there's a little bit of lift on here. You can use the magnets to help keep everything flat and joined together. So I'm going to put this on. If you're doing it the other way around, have a dry run first. See which you feel would go together best. The one thing you might want to think about, whichever version you're doing, if you imagine when we've got our side wall on here and our window wall, this bit forward, let me see if I can move that back a bit, forward of the window wall, you're going to have it's almost like a shadow silhouette graveyard. So you're going to have the headstones and then the tree silhouettes at the front. So this wall here and there will be part of the outdoor scene. You might like to paint that or decorate it before you build it, or you might want to build it and then decorate it. So that's up to you. The only difficulty would be, if I show you this now this way, is if I was going to decorate this wall, I'd have to be careful on that edge of my outside wall. And similarly, if it's reversed and you've got your silhouette of trees behind your window wall at the back, if it's that way round, and we've got the trees here, and we're going to backlight this area. Again, you probably don't want to install your tree silhouettes before you've decorated and built your graveyard scene in there too. So don't rush to do this bit. If necessary, I would say put the walls, the side walls for sure, onto the base, and one of your interior walls. So I would think maybe the window wall and the back wall if you're doing it that way. So side wall and window wall. And then tomorrow we'll look at the little graveyard scene. If you do want to incorporate that, again, that's entirely optional. You might feel it's too busy, or you haven't got the depth that you'd like, or you don't even want a graveyard in your book nook. So I'm showing you how to construct it today, only as far as the next level or the next step to put the graveyard scene in. That's up to you. So first for me, I'm going to glue that onto there. Again, normal tacky glue, and it's basically the whole of this hearth and the line across the back there. And because we cut the flooring out, it just kind of self-locates. And we really want to make sure we've got an even distance on either side here, at least around about the depth of the side walls, because they need to fit on the side of the back and on top of the floor here. And if you've got any glue squeezing out, then just wipe that off. This is self-supporting because it's got the chimney breast sort of creating the right angle. You would, if you didn't have the chimney breast, probably want to put some blocks at right angles and just support it while it dries, and make sure you push it from the top down so that you've got a really good adhesion along the back as well. And we simply leave that to dry first and make sure it's good and dry before we do the next stage. Okay, so this has now set up nice and dry, and whilst I was waiting for that to dry, I did go ahead and paint in the two edges, the front edges of my side walls that are going to be with the graveyard and silhouette tree. So I didn't want shiny black, I wanted matte black, but I didn't have any, so I just went ahead with that, and I can always get some sandpaper and dull it down if it's too much when I get to that section. So literally the sides will go on like that. I like to do one and then I'll do my window wall and then put the other side on. So I don't know if you can see that. There is a little gap of daylight on that edge. This is slightly bowed. So this is the piece that I will want to weigh down or magnet down, whichever you've got there. You probably can't see that, just to straighten that out flat. And then I know that when I put this edge on here and the bottom edge up to it, that I'm going to get as good a join and as flat a connection as possible. So this is always a good one, nice flat there, and then I'll need one at the other end. And bearing in mind, as this is going there, this needs to be shallow enough to get under that chimney breast and in the recess. So I'll use a magnet at this end because they're also nice and shallow. This would be a good case for not putting the chimney breast on until you've glued the back wall down, but I knew I had those shallow block there to get underneath that. So this side of the back wall will be glued onto that 2mm gap there, and then we need glue on the bottom of this edge so to glue down onto the base there. But if you're really accurate with your gluing, you could just put the glue on this side too. So I'm going to do that, so it's just all the way down the back and then on the top of the base there. And whilst it does dry nice and clear, it does also can be a little shiny tacky glue, but we could always just go over that with some matte paint. So I'm going to put it down onto this edge and up to that edge. And I can see that this corner also needs to be sort of magnetised down that way. And I'll get my other magnets out and use them to support, bring in from the back, pushing, I don't know if you can see that, pushing that way. So put them all the way along so they bring a nice even pressure and push the bottom up onto the side wall. Now it's difficult for me to show you that now because I can't move it, but you really just want to go around and check that every glued edge is nice and square and in contact with what it should be, and then leave that again to set up really well before we come on to the next stage. Okay, so that has now set up nicely. Always hold it up to the light and look through. If you see any gaps, squeeze a bit of glue in there and then press it, or use some clamps, but this one's pretty good. The one thing I noticed when I had come back to this, and because it was probably that way up, is I could just see there the wallpaper where it must have been sort of sticking out over the bottom edge has kind of crumpled. I'm thinking I might put baseboards on here anyway, but so it's just another thing to think about. If you've wallpapered any of your walls, always just turn it over on a cutting mat, and if there's any sticking out, trim along that with a knife, and then you won't get that problem. Also, what I did whilst I was waiting for that to dry was I cut another one of these walls, like I said you could do. I cut another piece of wallpaper using the ink stain PNG, and I did paint these reveals in black so that when I turn that over, I can glue that onto there to create the inside wall and still have the nice depth there with the windowsill. And I also cut from the SVG that same windowsill piece as that one, but I sliced off the back part and that left me with the front. So I don't know if I can show you this here. I just kept this front edge here, and so when this now glues onto there, I can take that and glue it on the front, and it will look just like the windowsill on the other side. So I'm going to glue that on there, and that will just be a case of glue all around those 4 edges. Put that on. There is definitely a top and a bottom to this window wall. If I did it that way, if I just show you, it's slightly not slightly doesn't line up. So there definitely is a top and a bottom, but you'll see that as soon as you do it. And I will glue that now and press that, so we'll have a nice double-sided wall. I just could not have an unfinished wall, even though we're not going to see it. So I'll glue that, let that set up. If you're going to put baseboards in, you'll want to do that now, I would think, before we glue this second wall on. Then it starts to get a bit narrow to work in with your hands. So you can put them on here before you even glue it on. Actually, I just didn't think about it until I noticed that overhanging wallpaper there. And baseboards, there's a video I've done on that. I'll put a link up there now, how to do baseboards. They're so easy. You can cut them in craftboard on your Cricut if you want to, or you could use pre-molded ones. And if there's anything else you'd like to do in this space that you think might be difficult to get your hand in afterwards, do that now also. I'm going to be sticking some pictures on Mirror Up. I'm also going to stick the Fire Surround on, but I think when I get the Fire Surround now, I've taken the hearth off. This is the one that I showed you earlier, so I can stick that onto that hearth. I might put that on now, and I'm going to create either a removable fire, or I might build the fire into this so that I can take just the whole thing in and out, but it's tending to want to fall forward there, so I might glue that one on, and then I can just make a removable fire, and we're nearly done on this part. So once my second side of my window wall has dried, I will be gluing that in place. Let me get it the right way around. And of course that is now deeper, so I either bring it forward, which makes my graveyard shallower, or I send that back. And it is lifted up by the depth of the craftboard flooring, but it's still pretty good there. I don't know that will make too much difference for getting the lid on and off, so that's up to you. See if you do this, you want to bring it forward of the line or back. I'll glue that up first, and then I'll have a play around with it, and then we will stick that on, and that will be it for today. So we'll let that then set up overnight, and then tomorrow we will look at making the graveyard scene and all of the headstones. So if you've got those cut out and you know what you'd like to do with them, I'm just reaching for them now, you can't see that. That one I tried to cut out of craftboard, and then I'm stuck. If you can, I don't know if you can see that. The inside of the R and the P back on, had to get them off of my mat because of course it cuts around them completely. That one was a more straightforward cut. I'm still not too sure whether I want 2 or 3 layers of mat board. It's not a huge amount of difference in depth because I've got the whole of that black area there to play with, and there's also, you'll have noticed, some base pieces which you can build up to create a base, if you'd like one, for one of your headstones, just to make it look a bit different to the other. So if you want to go ahead and you haven't done them yet, start making those up, because tomorrow we're going to come in and create the graveyard. So as always, if you've ever got questions or comments, come and join us in the Facebook group or put them in the comments below this video. I try and answer them, nearly everyone I can, where I can, and if you've got something specific, just send me a messenger message. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.